Uh-huh. Okay. So we're moving on in this chapter. There are going to be several sessions specifically on healing. So healing's just, it makes sense. They introduced in chapter 6 the lessons of the Holy Spirit, which are all centered around the experience of healing the mind of its sickness, of its issues. And so in chapter 7, a number of sessions focus on specific aspects of healing. And today, looking at healing as the recognition of truth. Hello and welcome to Miracles on High Plains. My name is Jonica, and our reader for this session is Heather C.
Truth can only be recognized and need only be recognized. Inspiration is of the Holy Spirit, and certainty is of God according to his laws. Both, therefore, come from the same source, since inspiration comes from the voice for God and certainly comes from the laws of God. Healing does not come directly from God, who knows his creations as perfectly whole. Yet healing is still of God, because it proceeds from his voice and from his laws. It is the result in a state of mind that does not know him. The state is unknown to him and therefore does not exist. But those who sleep are unaware. Because they are unaware, they do not know.
Mm-hmm. So as always, in A Course in Miracles, it teaches by way of contrast and making distinctions. And so there's a couple distinctions made here. One would be the distinction between inspiration and certainty. This distinction will follow along the lines of holy perception versus knowledge. In holy perception, the Holy Spirit inspires your mind. Inspire can be thought of as in spirit. Your mind turns inward towards spirit and is inspired by spirit. However, that is distinguished from the state of knowledge, eternal knowledge, which is certain. And so, but yet, inspiration is a stepping stone prior to knowledge. So, Holy Spirit operates in the domain or for the purposes of inspiring your mind, while God functions in a state of perfect knowledge, of certainty. Both of these come from the same source, but they deal at different levels. The Holy Spirit obviously dealing on the level of still working on healing the mind, whereas God in his kingdom does not work on healing the mind. One has to have a healed mind to enter fully into the kingdom. And so they both proceed from God and follow his laws, but there is a distinction in the recipient. The state of mind of the recipient grows from first total confusion to be dispirited, would be the lower level, then to be inspired, and finally to be certain. And so these are states of mind that one goes through with healing. So this follows with our title, Healing and the Recognition of Truth. We'll go on. Welcome, friends who just joined.
The Holy Spirit must work through you to teach you He is in you. This is an intermediary step towards the knowledge that you are in God because you are a part of Him. The miracles the Holy Spirit inspires can have no order of difficulty because every part of creation is of one order. This is God's will and yours. The laws of God establish this, and the Holy Spirit reminds you of it. When you heal, you are remembering the laws of God and forgetting the laws of the ego. I said before, excuse me, that forgetting is merely a way of remembering better. It is therefore not the opposite of remembering when it is properly perceived. Perceived improperly, it induces a perception of conflict with something else, as all incorrect perception does. Properly perceived, it can be used as a way out of conflict, as all proper perception can.
Mm-hmm. So there's two themes here. The latter theme of forgetting and remembering, we're going to do a deep dive on that in just a minute, so we'll cover that. But first, let's talk about this first statement. And this statement can be used as an illustration of something that is encouraged in the Course of Miracles for you to learn to interpret the meaning of a statement. I think this one is a good example. The words given here are the Holy Spirit must work through you to teach you He is in you. So what I'm going to do is not change the meaning, but reinterpret in slightly different forms. The Holy Spirit must appear in your life and in your relationships to teach you that He is in you and in everyone else. When He appears in your relationships, you realize He's in not only in you, but in everyone else. And how is that done? He must work through you. How is that done? Well, there are these ideas, the idea of forgiveness, the idea of healing, the idea of undoing the ego. Those are the Holy Spirit's ideas. And as you apply them, for example, in the workbook lessons, or in any encounter you have where you remember who you are, you apply those lessons. That's an example of the Holy Spirit working through you. And as you have those experiences, they teach you that the Holy Spirit is a part of you and in you. All of this, all of everything that the Holy Spirit does is but an intermediary step. It's not the final step, but it's a most important step of turning away from the ego and turning in the direction of truth. It's an intermediary step, preliminary or prior to the final step into knowledge. And part of that intermediary step is to undo the belief in hierarchies, in differences amongst people, so that you come to believe in perfect equality. Said another way, the ego encourages you to judge others and to see them as less than or more than you in some attribute. All that involves an opposite or a hostile judgment against the other person. But the Holy Spirit inspires you to undo those beliefs and see no differences, no orders of difficulties. This is consistent with the laws of God. And when you heal, what you are doing is applying the laws of God to your life. So, where are we going with this? We're going to use an overall framework here for all healing, all of your healing, healing of everyone, can be viewed through the lens of forgetting and remembering. It's an overarching framework. Some things have to be forgotten, other things have to be remembered. And the ego would trip you up and have you misapply this framework to its outcome. And so I want to illustrate how this works. This is the dynamics of forgetting and remembering. So first, we'll illustrate the ego's orientation. This is ego sickness. The ego would have you constantly remember that and think of yourself as identified with it, with the ego. It would have your attention, your faith, and your belief veer towards that and forgetting God. That's its version of remembering and forgetting. But obviously, the Holy Spirit has an opposite version, and that opposite version can be framed as the following. Now we're talking about how the mind heals, and that is to remember God and to forget the ego. This can also be viewed or thought of as undoing or disidentifying with the ego. Remember, it wants you to identify with the ego. The Holy Spirit teaches you to disidentify with the ego. And by doing that, it clears your attention, your orientation, so that you can reorient and remember God. And so that's a part of an overarching framework. You could say that applies to the entire program. And of course, the miracles is one of knowing what should be forgotten. You have to make this discernment, this distinction of what's unworthy or valueless and what is valuable and worthy, so that you forget the unworthy and you remember that which is worthy. Heather?
The ego does not want to teach everyone all it has learned, because that would defeat its purpose. Therefore, it does not really learn at all. The Holy Spirit teaches you to use what the ego has made to teach the opposite of what the ego has learned. The kind of learning is as irrelevant as is the particular ability that was applied to the learning. All you need do is make the effort to learn, for the Holy Spirit has a unified goal for the effort. If different abilities are applied long enough to one goal, the abilities themselves become unified. This is because they are channelized in one direction or in one way. Ultimately, then, they all contribute to one result, and by so doing, their similarity rather than their differences is emphasized. All abilities should therefore be given over to the Holy Spirit, who understands how to use them properly. He uses them only for healing, because he knows you only as whole. By healing, you learn of wholeness, and by learning of wholeness, you learn to remember God. You have forgotten him, but the Holy Spirit understands that your forgetting must be translated into a way of remembering.
So he's introducing an idea here that is going to be very useful to you. The term used here is abilities to learn, specific, in short, abilities. And that's a bit abstract, but we're talking about not the specific manner in which you learn, but rather the broader, more general ability to learn in whatever situation you may find. So, for example, these sessions are one way of learning, but by no means is this learning limited to this particular format. This is a particular ability to be able to take in information in this manner that actually requires that you have the ability to understand and to reflect on how these things might apply to your own life, and then go out and put them into practice. That's an ability. There are many other abilities. Our purpose here isn't to catalog all the learning abilities and the forms, but to stress that we acquire abilities to learn in life, and they are important. And so the particular ability that is applied to the learning is irrelevant, the particular ability. What is important is that you be willing to make the effort to learn. That it proves to be more significant than you might think, because if you're not motivated to learn something, it doesn't matter if you have the ability. If you're not going to try, or you don't care to put forth the effort, then you won't learn. So all you need to do is make the effort. And it says in other places in the Course, your small effort is matched by the Holy Spirit's mighty effort. And so it doesn't require unique effort on your part, but effort is a form of will. All you need to do is to be willing to learn. For the Holy Spirit has a broader plan involved in all this. And eventually, with experience, this is where age is a useful teacher, because you acquire different abilities over time. And if these abilities are applied long enough over time to one goal, the abilities become unified. So that would be in terms of the ability to learn to heal, the ability to learn to forgive, the ability to learn to be vigilant for God and his kingdom. All those abilities become unified and serve towards a singular goal, channelized in one direction, one way, contributing to one result. And so, bottom line is our willingness to dedicate our learning abilities to the Holy Spirit, to entrust Holy Spirit as our teacher and as our guide. I am certain everyone listening to this, everyone has abilities. Whether you recognize them or you fully appraise yourself, doesn't matter. Everybody has some abilities in some areas, but not everybody has given them over to the Holy Spirit, who understands how to use them properly. And so when we when we're willing to prayerfully give over to the Holy Spirit our abilities, Holy Spirit uses them only for healing. And this is the manner in which your forgetting of the ego can then be translated into a way of remembering God. It's an ability. And I'll remind you of something that's said in the Course that was startling to me when I recognized it. In order to forget the ego and remember God would seem at first to take great powers of concentration. But the Course says it's not so much determined by your abilities to concentrate as it is for your willingness to apply the effort. And the ego would have you believe that you are not worth the effort to remember God. And so that has to be undone. That judgment, criticism of the ego has to be surrendered and laid aside, and instead look to the Holy Spirit, who believes strongly in your ability to learn and is ready to receive your commitment to learn and channel them into healing. And then all you need to do is to make the effort to learn. I'll say one more comment about that is there's a good reason why there's 365 workbook lessons. You can surmise my meaning there. It's because learning, the effort to learn should be done on a daily basis.
The ego's goal is as unified as the Holy Spirit's. And it is because of this that their goals can never be reconciled in any way or to any extent. The ego always seeks to divide and separate. The Holy Spirit always seeks to unify and heal. As you heal, you are healed, because the Holy Spirit sees no order of difficulty in healing. Healing is the way to undo the belief in differences, being the only way of perceiving the sonship as one. This perception is therefore in accord with the laws of God, even in a state of mind that is out of accord with His. The strength of right perception is so great that it brings the mind into accord with His, because it serves His voice, which is in all of you.
Let me bring your attention to this statement about healing. Healing does many things. One of the things it does is undoes the belief in differences amongst souls, amongst people, amongst difficulties and miracles. No judgments are needed in these regards. So healing gives no meaning to those judgments, and it undoes the belief or the pattern of identifying differences. And that proves to be necessary in order to advance to the state where one perceives the sonship as one. This is perceiving the sonship as one is a form of holy perception. It is very consistent with the laws of God. And this holy perception of the sonship as one can even be practiced by a state of mind that is out of accord with God's. For in other words, it can be practiced when we're in the in-between intermediary state of healing, so that one believes and has faith that the creation is unified, not divided and separate. And so all healing begins with a belief, and then faith is applied to that belief, and it grows stronger. And then eventually we come to trust in our faith and belief in that idea. In this case, the idea is the sonship as one. And ultimately, trust transforms into certainty. So we're a long way away from the certainty of it, meaning there are no conflicting thoughts whatsoever regarding the sonship as one. But it all begins with a belief, and actually begins with undoing the error in differences and believing that the sonship is one. And then that perception, which is in accord with the laws of heaven, sets us off in a new direction. And brings strength. The strength of right perception is so great. This is actually significant. So great that it brings the mind into accord with his. So this is referred to other places. This is happening with you who are practicing the workbook lessons, practicing this course. As you know, split mind is attempting to follow two different guidance systems at the same time and can experience internal conflict around that. So the mind is not a good guide because the mind itself has divided loyalties, attempting to serve two masters. But there is something that can guide the mind, and that is the strength of holy perception. The strength of right perception is so great that it brings the mind. My word for it would be it pulls the mind towards this higher state, which is in accord with the laws of God, because just left to itself, the mind would remain conflicted. But when you practice the right perception of the Holy Spirit, it has a drawing power. This is also referred to as beckoning your soul to rise up higher, to be illuminated. So it brings the mind into accord with the Holy Spirit. And so it all begins by undoing the belief in differences and practicing that belief that the sonship is one. And then the rest is in the hands of the Holy Spirit. She knows how to guide us once we've made the effort to learn.
To think you can oppose the will of God is a real delusion. The ego believes that it can, and that it can offer you its own will as a gift. You do not want it. It is not a gift. It is nothing at all. God has given you a gift that you both have and are. When you do not use it, you forget that you have it. By not remembering it, you do not know what you are. Healing, then, is a way of approaching knowledge by thinking in accordance with the laws of God and recognizing their universality. Without this recognition, you have made the laws meaningless to you. Yet the laws are not meaningless, since all meaning is contained by them and in them.
Mm-hmm. So we're echoing again the forgetting and remembering process. And recall that the ego would have you forget God, and that includes forgetting his laws. And when we blank out or turn away our attention from source, from the laws that guide creation and the laws of healing, when we forget all that, then we make those laws meaningless to ourselves. We discard them from our mind as of having no bearing on your life, no significance to you. So this is the ego's goal, is to make the laws of God meaningless. The remedy for that is to turn and face the ego and say, I reject your proposal to forget God. I'm going to forget your guidance altogether. And so that's the first step, is you turn in judgment. The one right use of judgment in the Course is for you to judge the ego's guidance as wrong. It says it right here. You do not want the ego's gifts. That's a judgment. I don't want that. And that begins the process of turning away from the ego, forgetting it, which allows you then to turn towards Holy Spirit and remember it. This is the only way of recognizing what you are. And that ultimately brings you back, recognizing what you are, brings you back into accord, into the practice of and the awareness of the laws of God, along with the recognition that they apply everywhere to everyone and for all time. They are universal laws. So, forgetting and remembering, again, is an overarching metaphor for the entire healing process.
Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, because that is where the laws of God operate truly. And they can operate only truly because they are the laws of truth. But seek this only, because you can find nothing else. There is nothing else. God is all in a very literal sense. All being is in him who is all being. You are therefore in him, since your being is his. Healing is a way of forgetting the sense of danger the ego has induced in you by not recognizing its existence in your brother. This strengthens the Holy Spirit in both of you because it is a refusal to acknowledge fear. Love needs only this invitation. It comes freely to all the sonship, being what the sonship is. By your awakening to it, you are merely forgetting what you are not. This enables you to remember what you are.
Let's look at this second part first. Healing is a way of forgetting a sense of danger the ego has induced in you by not recognizing danger in your brother. So we spoke in our previous session about the idea of competition, that the ego wants to foster an orientation towards others as being in competition with them, as that they are adversaries. This is a conflicted basis, and bargaining for advantage becomes a primary orientation. Well, that's all based upon feeling something, we have something to lose to other people. It's a sense of danger, a sense of fear, acknowledging fear in others. And so, again, forgetting and remembering, when we read about the idea of competition, it says you should not underestimate the significance that this idea has in fostering ego attitudes towards others. Again, the Holy Spirit would foster a sense of perfect equality. And so another way of translating this would be, in order to heal, when the impulse, if the impulse arises in your mind to be afraid of someone else or to feel in competition, in conflict with them. We turn to the Holy Spirit so that we don't put our faith into that idea of competition by not recognizing fear in our brother. And this is, as you know, essential. This is part of being vigilant for God and his kingdom, is we don't allow our mind training involves watching your mind so it doesn't drift into these sometimes very subtle encounters in our mind where we mildly rebuke or diss someone as not being worthy of our time. And when we make that choice, love needs only this invitation to come freely into your mind. So, yeah, so that's as far as our reading goes. I did want to offer a summary of this material. And Noel, this is when I was using ChatGPT, I experimented with this when it first came out to let ChatGPT summarize a section. And then what I did is I edited what came from there because I thought I could improve upon it. So today we learn the goal of truth is to recognize, to understand, appreciate, and accept into your mind. Make it your own. Identify with it. That truth is my truth. It's not some truth that is kept external, as in A Course of Miracles says this, but has become accepted, become your own truth. And that results in appreciating the truth, which is a way of valuing the truth, and which carries us away from valuing the illusion. It comes down to what you want the most for yourself. And when you accept the truth, you will learn from the truth, which results in better choices, decisions that may not be perfect, but they're your best effort to be in accord, in alignment with the laws of God. And so better decisions. And these decisions are entirely dependent on what you accept into your mind, what you incorporate into your belief systems, and you will heal by accepting into your mind the laws of God and by rejecting, forgetting the laws of the ego. And then my recommendation is that you do this often, rinse and repeat. It's a joke. And you do the same process of living your life, practicing these principles in all your affairs, living your life according to the laws of God and forgetting the laws of the kingdom. And then as you repeat these things, it results in what is known as quantitative change, incremental experiences that add to your pool of experiences in practicing these laws in your life, which ultimately results in a qualitative change, a macro change, a stage change that occurs in your sense of identity. And the ultimate stage change is from inspiration and faith and belief to a state of certainty and knowledge It's okay to question, but once we have learned the truth, then this is beyond question. In fact, it's even beyond perception. Noelle, you had your hand up.
If I may edit again a little bit slightly,
Sure.
before number one, I would say for me, it's be willing, be even a little willing. And then all the rest follow rather not exactly easily, but they
No, yeah,
follow.
yeah, no, it's absolutely willingness. It begins with willingness. All we read today, all you need to do is make the effort to learn, and the Holy Spirit will match that. She will, like on a tandem bike, she will start pedaling for you. And you're along for the ride, but you've got her strength to accompany you on that journey. Very good, Noelle. Thank you. So here's a closing thought I'll leave you with, that God has lit your mind directly himself and keeps your mind lit by his light, because his light is what your most holy mind is. And this is totally beyond question. So that's our lesson on healing today, as a recognition of truth, forgetting, and remembering. This theme will build in the remainder of this chapter, particularly in our next session. We hope that you can join us for that. I want to thank you all for your presence. God bless you for your willingness to forget and remember. Heather, thank you for your reading, and we'll look forward to connecting again real soon. Namaste.
Thank you, Heather. Great reading.
Heather.
Thank you, Heather. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Okay.
Peace and love. Many blessings.